California property tax cliff. Our most viewed videos online tend to be about this issue because I think there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of confusion about this. What are we talking about when we say a California property tax cliff? Well, if you own a house, if you've owned a house in California for more than 10 years, 15 years, if you're fortunate enough to own any rental property, commercial property, a vacation place, you need to understand Prop 19, what it means, and more importantly, what you can do to plan ahead. Because if you own property in California and you want to leave it for future generations, or really to anybody, whether it's your kids, your nieces, nephews, your grandkids, this is the biggest tax issue you likely face. If you want to hold it, it is at risk. We're going to run through some numbers to show you why this new law can really force a lot of families to lose their long-held real estate. And Mike, it's not just about the numbers here, right? The family home is more than just a tax issue.
Yeah, you know, we just can't overemphasize this. You know, the home is the heart, is the hearth. It's kind of a old middle America value that really hasn't gone away. So, you know, when we think about protecting the house for the family, some critics who don't buy this line of thinking would say, oh, it's worth so much money, you're forced to sell it, so what? Well, you know, it's not like that. The home matters. Where the kids, like, we had 3 home births at our house, you know, we in the house. So it really means something to retain the family home. Feelings, emotions, history. So we value this emphasis on the family home. That's why we work so hard to be able to protect the house for families and avoid this whole property tax issue, as we will explore.
Now I want to tell just a very quick story. Because we're pretty well known around this issue of Prop 19, even outside of our client community, hundreds of thousands of people have seen our videos about this. And sometimes we get calls that come too late. And what do I mean by that? We'll have people, I had a call just a couple months ago where a woman called and wanted frantically to speak with me. So we chatted and she said, hey, look, I hear you guys understand Prop 19. Here's my situation. My dad passed away about a year ago, I think, at the point that she called us, and I moved into his house. It's the house I grew up in. It's worth quite a bit because it's in Los Altos, but I'm just a school teacher. I don't make that much money, and I thought I could just stay in my dad's house, and I just got a supplemental property tax bill for over $30,000. I cannot afford that. I'm gonna have to move, and my family's gonna have to leave the Bay Area. What can we do to protect the house? And my answer was, there's really nothing we can do at this point. So we're going to talk about Prop 19. It does allow, if a child moves into their parents' home, a little bit of protection from reassessment. But if it's after you've inherited a house, it's too late to protect it. We have to take steps while a parent is still living to protect the house from massive reassessments. So if this is a worry for you, for your home, rental property, or anything else in California, we need to plan ahead. So don't put your family in that position where they're calling us too late or where it's too late to take steps. So let's dive into what Prop 19 is, and very importantly, where it's going. So what happened in 2024?
Well, nothing. There was quite an effort to gather signatures to get it back on the ballot. Because again, Prop 19 was an amendment to the California Constitution, which means that the California legislature can't change it, can't fix it. It's up to another voter initiative. So 2 years now, efforts to gather enough signatures to get it on the ballot, unsuccessful. Frankly, they didn't even come close. And that's because there are many forces at work that support this aspect of Prop 19, who support more local tax revenue, people who aren't homeowners, they don't have a lot of sympathy. So nothing's really happening here. So again, we have to just think proactively. If you own the home, to avoid the property tax increase, we can't count on legislative changes before there's any possibility of getting this back on the ballot. It's going to take years and years and years of families experiencing this kind of pain. So again, it's the California Constitution. What happens if it's your residence and your kids do live in the house? Are there any protections? Let's go through what the law was and then what the changes are. So let's have no illusions about what remains in terms of protections. Very little, if anything. Okay, before Prop 19 became law, February 16, 2021, we had, of course, Prop 13, hallowed holy Prop 13, which rolled back property taxes and then said there can be minimal increases over time. Then we had Prop 58. Prop 58 is really the key issue here because Prop 58 said two things. First, it said that you can pass along your residence to your child or children, whether or not they live in it, and there's no property tax increases. So multi-million dollar homes would be passed along to the kids with no property tax increase. So somebody bought a house next door, their taxes are $50,000 a year. You got your house from your mom, your taxes are $8,000 a year. I mean, that was routine, okay? What about other real property? In addition to the residence, Prop 58 said you can pass along up to another $1 million in assessed value for real property. So real common, there'll be a property worth $2, $3, $4 million, but the assessed value, which starts out being the price paid, could be $400,000, $500,000. So for most individuals, they also pass along the rental property, the vacation home, without a property tax increase. I mean, what a gift it was to the next generation. Well, then came Prop 19. So on February 16, 2021, everything changed. On the residence, there is a small break. It depends on where you are, by the way, when I say small. If you live in Wairika and your house value is $900,000, if your child moves in, there won't be a property tax increase because if your child makes your residence, his or her residence, the first $1 million in assessed value is forgiven. So if a house is worth $2 million and a child moves in, the new assessed value is going to be $1 million. There may be no property tax increase or a minimal increase. But again, key parts of California where property values are high, $1 million, it's a lot of money, but it doesn't even come close to doing it. If your child doesn't move in, there's no property tax protection whatsoever.
1 year, very important to note, they have 1 year to do this. If they take too long and they don't properly make it their primary residence, they don't even get that.
Yeah, there's paperwork that has to be filed, the homeowner's exemption. So there's a number of steps you have to take, and then it looks like you have to stay there. You can't move in, make it your residence, and then move out and make it a rental. Looks like that's not going to work. So we have to be really careful about this. By the way, we have the we say $1 million. There's kind of a cost of living or a ratcheting up every year. The actual number this year is $1,022,000. It'll go up a little bit each year, but we'll speak in terms of $1 million to keep it simple. Okay, what about other property? If it's not the residence, there are no protections whatsoever. Property tax reassessment. That means whatever the property is worth on the date of death, that establishes the new assessed value. Property taxes can go up $5,000, $20,000, $80,000. Mark's going to do some great illustrations in just a couple of minutes. So have to be aware of what the new law says and what it's going to be do to all families who own property. Have to plan to avoid this outcome.
Now, we obviously focus on the negative of this. I think one positive of Prop 19, though, is that it lets anyone in California with certain types of disabilities or who suffers from fire, loss of home in a fire, or Californians over 55 to move within the state and basically take pro rata their low property taxes with them. So if you move from, San Diego to the Bay Area and you have a valuable home with low taxes, you can move to the Bay Area, keep those low taxes as long as your primary residence. Keep in mind that doesn't solve for capital gains taxes. And so there are some positives of it, but what are some solutions to Prop 19? Well, we'll give one scenario where you don't need a lawyer at all, and that is if you want to leave your house to a partner, but you're not married to them. If you don't take some steps, your property would be fully reassessed when it goes from you to your partner. So one solution, get married. If you want to leave it to a partner, you can't do this with your kids, obviously. But if you leave a house to your spouse, there is no property tax increase. There are exemptions for married couples.
And Mark, and let's mention where there should have been an exception. Special needs families, where the child, special needs, has to live in that house. There's no other viable alternative. It's so frustrating, it's so upsetting that families who plan to keep the house for their child, bipolar, autism, whatever the diagnosis may be, those plans have been shattered for hundreds of thousands of Californians. Really an unintended consequence because they weren't thinking about that. So there should have been, but there is no exception or protection for a special needs child.
Now let's walk through some numbers. I'm going to show you some detailed spreadsheets. I'm a former management consultant, recovering management consultant, so I love Excel spreadsheets. So don't worry too much about the specific numbers here, other than where we go. So let's say that you were fortunate enough to own a home worth $3.3 million with a $300,000 assessed value. So maybe you bought a ranch house in Silicon Valley, because 3.3 million is a huge number, but in so many parts of California, that's not even a big house. It boggles my mind, speaking as the next generation that didn't get to buy houses for $40,000, as Dad, you guys did, for those fortunate enough to buy.
Wait a minute, we paid $55,000. Don't exaggerate.
Yeah. All right. So let's say that you have an assessed value that's been kept artificially low by Prop 13, $300,000 assessed value, $3.3 million fair market value. Let's say that your child moves in to your home after you're gone. The property tax increases over 5 years, over $115,000 in extra property taxes. Over 20 years, over $500,000. Over 30 years, we're talking about over $890,000, almost $900,000 in extra property taxes paid. If your child moves in to the family home, if it's in this scenario, massive numbers. Let's say that they don't move into the house, or they don't move out in time, or they move in and then they move out and they don't get that $1 million in protection. Again, $300,000 assessed value, $3.3 million fair market value. The numbers are even bigger. Over 5 years, over $170,000, over 20 years, over $800,000, over 30 years, over $1.3 million in extra property taxes paid for one house. That's more than a third of its fair market value. And keep in mind, you can't deduct most of these property tax payments against your income tax. So it's essentially after-tax money. So imagine how much your child or their family would have to earn to pay these extra taxes. You know, to pay over $1.38 million in California in taxes, you might have to earn an extra $2 million. And by the way, think about what that money could do if instead of going to property taxes, it's invested. I mean, that could turn into $3, $4, $5 million. That's what I mean by, even if your house isn't worth $3 million, maybe it's only worth $2 million, which is coastal California, so many houses, and you have low assessed value. We are talking about a multi-million-dollar swing in your family's financial future. Because if we can save these taxes, it's almost like saving $2 or earning $2 extra. Because again, these are largely after-tax dollars that have to go to pay this. And think about the opportunity cost and what that money could do if it was invested and just earned 7% per year rather than losing all this money. So the numbers are staggering. Now, you might be thinking, well, like, that's great, Mark and Mike, thank you for making me feel bad. But what can I do about this? Well, we already mentioned that at least if your child moves in, that at least we can get some partial protection from reassessment if it's your residence and if your child moves into your residence and makes it theirs within 1 year. But that doesn't provide much protection, especially in coastal California, Silicon Valley, Napa, Marin, LA, San Diego, Orange County. We can set up plans where we can prevent properties from being reassessed, the primary residence and rentals. And we can still, in many cases, get the stepped up cost basis, meaning we can give your family the best case scenario, depending on your situation. We have to look at capital gains taxes, property taxes, estate taxes. There's a lot of issues here, but we can develop plans to keep property taxes low while still, in many cases, allowing for that crucial stepped up cost basis, eliminating capital gains taxes when the house goes to your kids. So with the right planning, we can protect the family home and any other properties that you own in California from massive reassessments. And as part of this process, we can even help to add tools to protect your kids, or at least provide layers of protection against future divorces or lawsuits or future taxes. So these tools are really, really powerful. They are optimized for your situation. No two situations are alike. But the main point I just want to make here, talk to us. Let's protect the family home and the rental property if you're fortunate enough to have that. The solutions essentially take the house out of that realm of rules. So it is really, really powerful what we can do. So contact us if you have questions about this. We've already helped many of our clients and many people who have joined our client community I just talked to some families in Southern California earlier this week. We do want to make an important point here. In light of all the fires in LA and the massive loss, and our heart goes out to you if you or anyone in your circle was affected by the fires in Pacific Palisades or Altadena or anywhere. We are increasingly concerned about insurance in California. So if you have homeowners insurance, if you've worked with us on property tax planning, or if you have changed title to your properties to add trusts or put in a living trust or anything, contact your insurer and make sure that your coverage is up to date. We are increasingly worried that home insurers are going to look for technicalities to reduce coverage or make it more difficult. So just make sure that your insured parties, that you've talked to your insurance agent to make sure that insurance for your home, again, whether you've worked with us on property tax planning or not, make sure it's up to date. Sometimes people change title on their properties, they set up different trusts, and they forget to tell their insurer. Make sure it's up to date. We just want to make sure you're on top of that. But again, most importantly, talk to us if you're worried about property tax planning. We can help you, but it takes time and it takes some effort. So I hope that alone gives you some strength. And if you want to hold on to properties in your family, this is so crucial.